Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, dollar has gone on Yagi.
I mean, yeah, this is the guy that he also said, send me to Albuquerque and I'll feed balls to Susan for $1 million and wear my Rolex.
Okay. I just was listening to your podcast. I didn't get all the way through it, but I heard you say something to that effect. Can you expand on that? Because I don't think anybody knows what you're talking about with
Not a
Riley
clue.
Newman feeding balls to Susan wearing a Rolex.
Yeah, so we were told allegedly that Riley Newman decided not to take a cut.
Right.
So he said, I'm not taking any cut. He said, put me to work. If you want to send me to clinics, if you want to whatever,
This
put me
is
to
when
work.
Major
And
League
one of the
Pickleball
lines-
offered a handful of their, was it all of their players or reduced contracts or reduced amount of days, reduced?
Yeah. Reduced days,
Right.
reduced contract. Yeah, exactly. And Riley decided I was told originally he said yes. And then after some talking with his agent, who may or may not be Jim Kloss, we don't know. Maybe Jim's just advising him. He decided not to take a cut. And he basically told whoever, well, I don't know if he's talking to MLP, PPA, but he basically just said, look, you know what? I'm not going to be top 5 in 3 years. There's new people coming into the game. So this is life-changing money. So send me to Albuquerque. I will feed Susan balls and I'll do it with a smile on my face and a Rolex on my wrist.
I like that. That's one way to put it.
Yeah. So the rumor that we were told is that Riley won't be playing PPAs anymore.
Right. But that's not confirmed. That's sort of just conjecture. And that's based on the fact that he's not willing to take that revised agreement.
It is. He can play PPAs, is my understanding, but he has to pay his own entry fees, and there's not a lot of prize money in it. And then based off those MLP contracts, he has to pay 80% of that prize money to MLP. And so it sounds like by his own, from some of the things he said, he's probably going to choose not to play that. There's no
talk
benefit.
about that for a second. He has to pay 80% of his prize money on the PPA tour to Major League Pickleball.
Yeah, so these contracts state that 80% of some of them, unless you have a carve out, that 80% of your prize money from other events has to be paid to MLP.
And that was the deal that was presented prior to the merger. You don't think that they're going to revise that aspect moving forward?
I mean, I hope they do for the players' sake. I think they owe the players a lot more than, what they're giving them. I mean, I think that there's a reason that a lot of these players are going to play APPs right now. I mean, APP Sacramento's loaded.
The pickle box.
The pickleball box.
The dink
Pickleball box.
Yeah. Just kidding. It's the pickleball box.
The pickleball box,
It is a subscription box.
gear, accessories, apparel.
And it comes straight to my door with all the hottest pickleball gear in here.
It's so hot I can barely.
Over $250 of value in each box, and you only pay $99 for each one. Go to the dink.shop, undoubtedly the best gift for any pickleballer, or if you're like me, or anybody who listens to this, you're obsessed with pickleball, this is honestly like the perfect thing for you.
Yeah, for sure. But what does that do, Zane? This is a good question for you. What does that do? So we'll just use Riley as an example, but if you're Pro XR, how do you feel about Riley not playing PPAs?
I think, you have to kind of take it on a case-by-case basis. Like, I'm sure there's going to be a conversation between Riley and Pro XR about this, right? Like, I'd assume everybody has a contract that says certain requirements, right? Maybe it doesn't list out tournaments specifically, but any of these contracts are basically based on the fact that somebody is a professional pickleball player, right? If I quit pickleball, my contract with Pro XR would be done. And so would everybody else's, right? That if they did the same thing. So I'm sure that this isn't a decision that Riley is making in a vacuum, right? I'm sure that there is gonna be some conversation with Pro XR before he does something like that.
Yeah, but he's not going to not play the PPAs. And the PPA is, they're not just going to make it a point because they want to make a point to not allow Riley to play in PPAs if he wants to play in PPAs.
I
PPA
don't
wants the
think
best
they're-
product, and Riley's a big name.
The
Like,
PPA is not
Yeah, but if
disallowing
he has to
anybody.
pay his own entry fees,
They're not disallowing anybody from playing. Anybody can still play a PPA, but the thing is, financially, it probably, if you're looking at it only financially, it would never make sense for anybody outside of the NewCo to play a PPA event or an MLP event, just financially, right? Because if Riley does stick with his old deal, not take the pay cut, he goes to play a PPA, pays his own entry fees. The prize money at PPA has been drastically reduced because now we're all salary based.
right.
So let's say Riley makes 1,000. So like I played that Desert Ridge tournament, JW Marriott. I got to the quarterfinals with Coop and bronze with Eric, and I made $950, right? So the prize money has been cut dramatically. Let's say it's Riley. Riley makes $950. He pays his 400 entry fee. He's down to $550, and then he has to remit 80% of that back to MLP.
Right.
What he made, like what is that, like $150 before expenses?
well, plus travel, right? He's going to lose his travel. He's going to,
So his gross
gonna lose
income
money
would have
unless
been
he
would have
wins.
been like $160.
Right.
So financially, there's 0 cents. That's where this comes down to. If you are a player who is outside of NewCo, you would only play PPA or MLP for the visuals, right?
Right.
Yeah. Now the question comes in: does a sponsor come in and foot his travel, or does a sponsor pay his entry fees because they want to see him? But I'll tell you guys right now, I know that Riley has already told his partners for Austin they've already found new people to play with. So at least in the near future, until they figure this out, he's not playing PPAs.
Right. I'd have to imagine they figure something out. I think they want Riley. But then again,
I think they do too. I think they want all these players. And I think at some point, I think it's all new right now. And so I think at some point they'll figure out a solution.
Because you still have the Johnson 5, right? JW, Dylan, fresh off of their win over in Mesa, right? You can't have the best team.
Yeah.
Argue like one of the best teams. I'd put him number 2 in the power rankings by a wide margin. You can't have him not competing, right?
Yeah, for sure. That's what makes it tough. Like, how do you? I mean, you gotta have, like, if the PPA's whole argument during the Tour Wars, was the best. We still have the best players. We still have the top of the top, which was Ben and Annalie, right? Well, now if you don't have the Johnsons, you don't have Dylan, you don't have Riley, you have a diluted product, right? The whole point of the merger was to make sure that all these players stay together. So I think they have to figure that out. There's got to be some solution.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, dollar has